welcome to Ivory Blush Roses. My name is Lisa and I'm so glad you're here with me today. It's the beginning of October and we're here for another session of Stitching Rambles. I'm going to continue working on my autumn runner. All the seams are beaded that needed to be beaded, and today I'm going to work on embroidering a couple of seams. I'm hoping to get 2 seams done. We'll see if I can do more, and we'll see if we can get this project finished. I'm ready to move on to something else. Get your projects out and let's go ahead and get started. As we talked about last time, I got all of the seams beaded that I had already stitched, and so there's really nothing left to do on this whole portion of the piece. So what I want to do is focus on these 4 seams. So there's 1, this really long one, 2, and 3. And I think I'll start with this one. I may try and get these 3 done, and then I'll work on that one separately. We'll see how it goes today. Now, one of the things that I noticed when I look at it as a whole is I ended up with this pretty heavy section right here. The elements all are a little heavier than everything that's happening on other parts of the block. So I want to lighten this up much more like it is on this section of the block. So let's look at the stitches I'm thinking of using. I decided against using this one. It's pretty similar to this one. I'm not sure about this one. Again, it seems like if I put it over here, it's too close to this one and this one. And so I think I want to stick with more traditional seams. So the ones I'm really looking at right now are these 3, but that still leaves me needing 1 additional. I've never done this before, putting them on the card like that, but I actually really like it because I like being able to lay it on the seam and kind of get a feel for how something would look. This one's interesting because it's herringbone and then it's got some straight stitches on it. That might be okay. It's sort of similar to what I did down at this end. Decisions. So I'm going to work on the short seams with these other 3. So I realize that I feel like I'm a little scattered today. You know, when I feel like that, it's just harder to make decisions even when it's over something that ought to be something simple. We have this. That might be nice over here on this seam. I kind of like that there. I like the lighter green over here better, I think. Alright, so let's start with that seam, since that seems to be the one I'm currently thinking about. There, we've got a thread. That was easy, it was already out. Yeah, I like it going into that orange, and then I think we could use, let's see, which one are we going to use here? I was originally thinking about this one here, and I think that actually might be nice, and then I can do those little Y stitches in the lighter green. That could be nice, and then we could have a nice contrasting bead or French knot in the center there. I don't want that one. This one needs something small-ish, so is this actually better here? Sorry, I filmed that all here. So I've been trying to decide what seams I'm doing where. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking I haven't done a whole lot on this end with a darker orangey thread. So I was looking at this, and at first I was thinking over here, but I'm actually wondering if it'd be better here. So if you look at this one here, and we did that, the herringbone in this orange, and then we could come in with this lighter green. I mean, we could use all kinds of greens. I think I've got so much dark green at this end, we need to go lighter. I think I like this one. That green, this is a linen, and that's actually good too. It may not show up as much on this pail though. The color I really want is that color. I do this quite a bit, where you snip out part of that and use the section that's the color you want. So let's do that. All right, so this seam, so herringbone, and let's get this threaded up. Check for needles. Now, I heard the term the other day of needling the thread or threading the needle, and realized that what I do is what they call needling the thread. I bring my needle to the thread. And it just works really well for me most of the time. I just pinch the tip between my thumb and forefinger, and I just bring that eye of that needle down right over the top, and it just slides right on. I'll do a knot. So I'm just doing my traditional little crossed knot there. All right, so I'm going to start. I always have to think about how I want to do these. When I'm coming off of another seam, I like to start up here. That way I can control what's going on. I don't care what happens out here so much, but I do care about what's going on up here. So that definitely makes a difference for me. And I need to think about the size I want. So this is a pretty broad one. And again, I want to look at some of these. I think I want to bring my size down a little bit. I'm actually just going to come right off of that. Now I probably won't, they're probably going to come up higher on the other side, but I think I'm just going to make a continuous line from there. Okay, so now that I've got here, I am sorry, I'm having a hard time just getting focused and stitching today. So I'm going to come out about 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm taking my needle back only once through the fabric, please. Go over here. So now I'm established, and I can keep my pattern. So I'm keeping my parallels straight, and I'm keeping my tops straight. No marking, just stitching. And if it comes off a little uneven, there's nothing wrong with that. I think, back in the day when clothes were handmade, it was so important to have them look professionally made, and so having your stitches all very even and neat was a mark of stitching excellence. But now we're in the machine age. We've got machines that can do that. I don't want everything I make to look like it's been made by a machine. Embrace the little imperfections. I think they're actually what makes work look much more interesting. I think our human eye really appreciates that bit of variation. I feel like I'm pulling this one a little tight. This beige fabric is a little thin, so it doesn't have quite the body of most of the other fabric pieces. And so on this one, because it is pulling a little bit like that, before I put a knot in, I'm going to lay it out flat here and check it, because see how it's tucking together this way, and so I want to loosen that up. So we're just going to go back and loosen. I think that's looking a little better. There, I think that's better. Alright, so now I'm just going to knot that, and again, to make my knot, I'm just picking up the back fabric, not going through to the front. So there, that was quick. I'm actually thinking I'm going to leave that full stranded. So this is some type of, I know it's some kind of silk, and I'm not exactly certain which kind it is, but you can pull it apart into strands, but it's not necessarily stranded. So it's an interesting fiber. So now we're going to make those little fly stitches, and I'm going to start. Let's go here, and then I can decide what I'm doing when I get up there. So I'm not sure yet. Now, even though I don't have a cross here, because that's going to be right in my seam line, I do want my fly stitch here. So I think I'm going to bring those edges out pretty even with the edge of the herringbone here. Do that. So this is the brown end of the thread, and I'm going to bring the tail down the same way. And I want to bring the bottom of that Y right up in the center where that I think that needs to go down further. We're going to go down there. Is that too heavy? Let's do one more here and I'll see. I'm not sure. That might be too heavy. We might need to go back to a thinner. Might need to divide this thread in half. I think that looks a little funny. Okay. Well, if you don't like it, pull it out. That's simple as that. So I'm just pulling with the back of my needle. All right, let's try this. I really like this thread. I think I'd like to stick with it, so I'm just cutting it. I need to put my sewing glasses on for this part. So I think when you pull this one apart, it's, how many strands does it pull into? It's like 7 strands, so. Oh, no, it's way more than that. It's like 9. Okay. Let's try this again, see if we like this a little bit better. I can tell you already I like it better. I think it's more appropriate for the size of stitch that we're doing. Here comes Mr. Mushu. He may be up on the table here momentarily. Or maybe he'll behave and go sit somewhere else. Yeah, this is so much better. I'm much happier with that. There goes my creaky table again. See, this is so much better. I'm glad I got that down and didn't use that full width of fiber here. And that one, I'm not going to have much of a leg there. Stop it right there. Go back a knot. Well, I think it took me longer to decide what to do on this seam than it's taken to actually stitch it. So now we need a bead to go in there. Let's see what we think would work. What have we used on this end that we haven't used down here? Not much. Looks like we've been using the same things. How about those bigger green ones? That is a nice contrast. But I also have these bronze guys. Well, they both work. But I've also used these down at this end. I think that's what these are. Let's take a look. Oh, I think that's a better fit with that thread, so I think let's do that. So let's see. I'm gonna find my beading needle. Let's just tip that. It's pretty subtle, but I think I like that better than the others. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't need very many of them, just a pinch out of here will be more than enough. Let's get our beading thread. Again, we're going to do a pretty long length. I'm probably about 2 feet of doubled length here. So I know in my last video I talked about having some floaters in my eye, and they're doing much better. I'm seeing much more clearly now. So that has been a huge help. Really grateful for that. Is that going to be too close to that? We'll put it in anyway and see here. Yeah, I think this is going to look good here. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm trying to sew these on so that they sit kind of vertically. And I'm doing it so that the stitch is actually almost a back stitch, so it loops back. And I just always feel like if you can do that, it makes it sit a little more securely. At least for me. That's the way I like to do it. So this seam's gone pretty quickly. Like I said, I think it took me longer to decide what to do than it has to actually stitch the seam. So once you get going on something like this, decision making is half the battle. Alright, last bead. And that seam is done. Yeah, so that gives a little lighter look over here. I think that's going to help balance this other end a little bit better. I like that. I like the color of it, which kind of lightens this up a little bit. So let's get some knots in here. Again, I'm just trying to go through my backing fabric only. There's one knot. Making my second knot. So now we have beading thread for the next one. Those are done. Let's clean up as I go. I remember my mother pounding that lesson into me as a kid with anytime I was cooking or doing things like that. And I used to hate that, and now I try to work really hard to do the same thing. All right, let's see, which one next? So, this one we can check off. I actually think this one would be good here. It'll pull it out into this, and then this one that's a little finer we could go, actually we might go this way with that one. So this one here. Now, oh, cat. Gracious sakes, bud. What are you doing? He just knocked over a whole pile of stuff. Oh well. I'm gonna keep stitching. What are you doing under there? Mushu! That's my class box. That's what I take to teach. Cat! You're a goofy boy today. You are. Alright. Well, let's go back to stitching here. Hopefully he will not destroy too much else. He's not the center of attention today, and he just doesn't like that. Alright, so now we need to decide on threads for this one. I was thinking about using this one over here, but I think it's too light. But so let's see if one of these other ones that we have would work there. I actually was... What about this one? I think that might actually be interesting. Yeah, because I haven't used that in here, I don't think. So I think that will be a good one. And I really want to make sure I get to the green in here. So I'm going to thread from that end. Yeah, I'm going to trim off a few inches of this, about 6 inches of that brown, just so I have more variation going on in color with that one. It's a really short length here. So I'd like at least 3 flowers. So I think I'm going to sort of start, if we look at this, from about this point here. Here, 2, 3. So you can see I was just sort of playing with it there. I wanted to see how big I wanted to make my stitch. Because these little flowers are actually the focal point. And I want a fairly big cross on these so that I can have room to put that flower in. Might actually get 4 of those little flowers in on this one. Got the blue jay outside. So he's probably checking out all the changes in the tree out here. I have a tree right in the front of my house, and the branches were leaning on the roof. So my middle son and youngest son came over yesterday and helped me. I also had a squirrel or something got a big hole in the soffit vent, and so they came over and put new soffit vents on all of them because there were holes in 2 of them, and then we trimmed back the trees. You know, if I bring a little weight up here, that would help balance this. So maybe let's look at, what about that one? And I think I'm going to make these little colonial knot flowers here. So I'm just going to make a knot. This narrow ribbon, I know that's not the best way to do it, but it's going to work for this. So colonial knots often look very much like French knots, but with silk ribbon, if you do them loosely. So I'm going to wrap and a wrap. So basically I've made a figure 8 around the needle, and go down. And I think I need to pull a little tighter, little tiny bit snugger on the next one. So I'm just going to wrap. So I go around. Oh my gosh, let's look it up. So this is one of my favorite books, this Embroidery and Crazy Quilt Stitch Tool. It's a Judith Baker Montano, and I like it because it's small. I can keep it here. It's got a thing that folds out, and I can stand it up to see and use it as a reference while I'm stitching. So there we are, colonial knot. The other thing I like about this is that it's shows how to do the stitch both right and left-handed, and that's really helpful sometimes. I'm right-handed, but I teach a lot of people who are left-handed, and there are very few books that show how to do stitches left-handed. So it's a really nice thing. Go this way and then wrap that way. And again, I'm going to loosely tighten it there. That's better. Let's go over again. This way. That's where I keep messing up. And if you tighten it too much, then your knot doesn't look as nice. So you know, they make good little flowers. Obviously it's been a while since I've made these, so this way and wrap. To end that, I'm just going to come back and take a stitch through the ribbon and the backing fabric and do my knot there and trim that off. There we go. 4 little colonial knots. Now let's move on to putting some leaves on that. And I'm going to use this green thread. I think that's going to go nicely with it. All right. And then we're just going to do some lazy daisies. I need to check these, see if they're too big. Let's look back at what we've been doing. They seem massive to me. They're on the scale of these, and I don't think I want the leaves that big, so I'm going to redo this. We're doing a lot of redoing today. Alright, let's try this again, and maybe I just need to be pulling it tighter. There we are. I'm definitely going to pull these a little bit tighter this time. And I'm trying to come up right in the base of that ribbon so that the base is hidden a little bit. I think that's better. What do you think? I like it better with the smaller ones. That's where you're going to bring your own sensibilities to these things as you stitch. It's your project, so you get to do it how you want. And I think that's such an important thing to remember. Even when I do a kit of something, I almost never do the kit exactly like it's shown because I bring my own preferences. So I don't hesitate to change things up. I had a lovely morning with a friend yesterday who is also a stitcher. We've done a lot of stitching projects together over the years, and if you watched my denim materials video when I was getting ready to work on that denim crazy quilt. She's my friend that gave me the Japanese fabrics. It was nice to sit and play with that autumn bell pull that's going to be the next project and get some ideas and sort of think aloud with somebody else, because I usually work on my own, and now and then it's nice to have feedback from someone else. I'm really getting anxious to go on that. I have a pretty good idea what I want to be doing on it. The sooner we can get this one finished, the sooner we can get to that one. There's 2 seams. Let's see if we can get one more done today. If I can get this one done, that would be fabulous. So this is the one we're going to do, this little seam, which is really similar to this. So we need to make it look different. And that was one of the reasons I decided to go with the ribbon here. So on this one, I'm going to sit it so it comes over into the gold, I think. Should we do that? I realize I'm just still not quite convinced of what I'm doing here. Oh my gosh. Thinking and thinking. Let's do something different here. This is too similar to this, and I don't think I'm going to be happy with that one right here. I probably should have done this one here, and then I could have done that one over here. What if I do this one on this seam here? This is really different from anything else on this block, and I think that might be nice. And I can do much smaller stitches in there. So I'm going to do this one. So we're changing it up. I'm going to do this one here. I don't have this one drawn out, so I need to just look at it again. So it's just 2 stacked right on top of one another. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to do the straight stitches on the line in between, or if I'm just going to butt them up. Well, now I've got to think about this too. Do I want green on that? I like the contrast over here. I'm just going to do it, and then we'll figure this out as we go. This is going to be one of the few times I don't think I'm going to stitch this right in here. So I think I'm actually going to start from the outside in on this one. So work a little differently than I'm accustomed to. Alright, and so I'm going to try and keep these a little shallower. So remember, one side I'm working completely on that one side. And I'm just pulling my threads so I can see that they're parallel with what I've done previously, and then making sure I'm keeping the tops and bottoms even with one another all the way across. So that's been the way I've been able to stitch these without marking them. And I really love not being tied down to having to have a ruler or a marker and messing with all of that. I do it once in a while, but if I can stitch without that, I much prefer it. So I'm getting smaller. Can you see that? I think I actually need to pull this one out too. Like I said, it's a day for tearing it out. I'm just not as focused apparently. So I need to go up a little higher is what I think I was doing as I was getting shorter. So I need to keep that in line. Yeah, that looks better already. Well, there, see, that worked out, and I'm just going to go right up to that, and that worked perfect. And so now I'm going to come up. No, I got to come here. So I'm going to turn around. And now we're going to try and square it up. So I want my cross portion to be even with the one on the other side. So I didn't quite get that wide enough up there, but it'll work. Again, trying to keep it even with everything I've done on the opposite side. Okay. I mean, I could leave it just like that, but am I going to put the little caps on those? Like that. Do I want to do that? No, because one of the things that I had originally written down of trying to do was this one. And effectively, that's what I've just done here, except I just didn't use two different types of thread. The variegation in it makes it almost look like I have done that. You know, it's just fun playing. Now, I haven't used, I can get it out, any of these big gold beads here for a while. So what if we put one of those in the center of each of those? I think we're going to do that and call this one good. So I'm not going to put those little caps on after all. So let's make this knot. I'm right in the edge of this. I'm not making a big knot, so it shouldn't cause me any issues when I go to stitch later. And I'm not going to put one here because that's going to be right about where my stitch is going to be. Now these beads have great big holes in them, and I've got to put these in a tray because I can't get the needle in and out of that. Like 3 times as many as we need, but that's all right. They also vary in size and shape, so, and I'm going to do these so they straddle the line, and because the holes are so big, I'm going to stitch through twice, because I find if I don't with these beads, I've stitched these beads down on lots of different projects, and they just wobble, and I don't like that, so. I want that gold face to stay up rather than the hole. So I suppose if you were to look at a cross section of the bead by the time I'm done stitching it on, it actually almost looks like I've done a little cross stitch through it. Better. So I come up barely over the edge on that. I want these nice fat jobbers. And so I'm not going over in straight across, I'm going up slightly. And then I'm coming straight across on the back. Go through the bead. And then I'm going back down behind. So like I said, it really looks like a little cross stitch, but that really helps hold that bead nice and snug. So when you've got those big holes. That's how I cope with that. I'm debating if I need to put a bead up here. Let me just hold one up and we can take a look at it. If I do that, I don't actually need any more stitching, but it makes it look like the seam continues. So let me go up here and put a bead in. And since I don't have the stitching to guide my position, I'm eyeballing how far apart these were and trying to do roughly the same. All right, so we got these 3 short seams done today. I think that's plenty for today. There we are. We're almost done. Really pleased with how it's looking. I think that's going to do it for today. I'm really happy that I was able to get 3 of those seams done. I'm looking forward to getting the next 2 done and then being able to finish this project and move on to that autumn bell pull. I'm really looking forward to working on that and have some ideas that I can't wait to share with you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Happy stitching. I'll see you in the next video.